Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us. That helps the bands and artists like South for Winter. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR. Outfitters.com. Don't just wear, RAR. So, ladies and gentlemen, Nick and Danny from Nashville. I'm assuming, right? Or are we still in Canada?
We are in Nashville temporarily, as of right now, this very second.
My gosh, you guys have been to 9 different countries this year. When I say that, like, what goes through your head?
Oh man, honestly, just the fact that it's been 9 countries just that we've performed in, but we've gotten to see so many others in between the travels. So it's been an amazing year. It's been a lot of hard work, of course, lots of hard work. We're fully independent. We do a lot of our own booking ourselves.
But what comes to mind for me is that childhood dream, you know?
Hmm.
Like to be able to travel with the music that you've written and also your partner as well. Like it's pretty amazing. Incredible year so far.
Yeah.
I mean, on January 1st, when you were looking at this year ahead, I mean, now it's, October. Like, did it live up to your expectations? Did it exceed it? Like, what are we talking here?
It was definitely like when you looked at the calendar, there was a few moments where you're like, I don't know how we're going to get through that. Like that's going to be extremely exhausting. But like when opportunities come in, we're still in that mindset of try to say yes to every great opportunity, which is why we ended up doing Europe twice this year. And when we got our opportunity to play our first ever festival in Europe, that was amazing. But you've just got to kind of roll with it, eh? Like we've been the first part of the year were extremely exhausting, but
Yeah.
rewarding at the same time.
I feel like the very beginning of the year, January 1st, was all about being short-sighted because if you looked at the whole picture, it was too overwhelming. And we had enough planning to do because we were planning, our 27-date New Zealand tour coming up at the very beginning of the year that Nick had booked, and they were pretty much all hard ticket sales on our end. So we were pretty hyper focused on that. And then as soon as that was done, then we were just a couple weeks away from going to Europe. So I feel like we've been forced to live in the moment and not step back and look at the big picture too much because again, otherwise it is very overwhelming, but it started out pretty crazy and then as the year goes along, then it's just been like settling down in a beautiful way
Mm.
where it feels very accomplished, but also it feels like we're still doing stuff. We're still
Bit of a
rolling.
change of focus, really. Like we went from show after show after show to promote the album we released last year as much as we possibly could. To then, oh, we actually need to start thinking about next year, and we need to start thinking about the next album, the next release. And we did think ahead a little bit before we started hitting the road earlier this year. We had done a 5-track EP, which with a string quartet, and we had filmed a bunch of amazing videos with Music Neighbors, a non-profit here in East Nashville. And those videos have turned out incredibly well. Like we're super stoked with how that was, and that was all tracked back in December last year. And we also had the Live from New Zealand album that I never thought I'd have a chance to actually get to because when we were in New Zealand, I multi-tracked about 15 shows along the tour. And then, I realized I also then had to go back and listen to 15 shows of our own music to critique it, to find the best performances of the songs to then put on the album. So it was a lot of work, and I didn't think I'd have time between touring. But of course, there was one week where I got a flu and was just lying there on the couch. So it was perfect timing to actually go through and find the songs that we needed for that album. So that's kind of helped us keep the ball rolling on releases.
Yeah.
But it's time to get on to writing some more songs, which is what we've got planned for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? No.
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was,
I was giving Doug a chance to ask a question.
oh, sorry.
No, you're good. This is a
Um,
conversation. You know that.
yeah. We're doing a little because it's been such a crazy year and we haven't had really any time to breathe. Then tomorrow we're leaving for a few days of songwriting retreat. So we kind of our treat to ourselves for how crazy the year has been as we booked a few days in a cabin in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky with lots of hiking around. And we're just going to songwrite and come up with ideas for next year and record and actually get to be creative because so much of music is the business side nowadays. It's hard to actually have time to be creative.
We've adopted the concept of scheduled creativity this year, so it seems to be working okay. I mean, I think the probably the best thing that you could give a creative is a deadline.
So I want to know, like, from because I know you guys book all of your own tours and all that. So from the beginning to where you're at now, how has tour routing become more important to you both?
You know, so I started out doing our booking and Nick has taken the reins because,
Well, we
as
do have a booking agent
we have
in
a booking agent in
Europe.
Europe, which is
Yeah.
great. But I started out doing our booking when we didn't have a tour history, and there was no routing involved. It was wherever there's a show that will take us that's within a 12-hour drive, we'll play it. And it was typically like, you know, more paid gigs sprinkled in with some hard ticket sales because we had no touring history and we couldn't sell anything. And now it's definitely the point where tour routing, we try to base it around good gigs like a festival. So we get those opportunities first, hopefully, and then sprinkle in some hard ticket sales around it. And we're also forcing ourselves to drive less. I know I can't say travel less because we, as you said,
Mm.
did 9 countries this year. But it used to just be that we would drive through the night and we'd drive 12 hours to a show and we would be exhausted when we get there and we play the show. And now our limit is usually like 6 hours drive from the last gig, ideally less than that.
Mm.
And hopefully not 6 hour drives, a few in a row. Hopefully it's like 2 hours here,
We've
4 hours
also
there.
we've also started doing like, on the back end of this year, a lot more weekend runs, which has been really nice because the 6 week runs that we did at the start of the year are exhausting. But they're a lot of fun. But the
Mhm.
6 week runs, the routing does matter a bit more, I
Yeah,
feel. Um,
definitely.
yeah, it's interesting. It's tough to create good tour routing in America because often the gigs are so far apart. But it seems to be working out for us at the moment. I say that, but we still got a lot of work to do for next year. I mean, that's the slog of being an independent musician is your day's never done. It's just moving on to the next job, really.
Yeah. Can you kind of tell, like, of the 9 countries that you played in this year, can you definitively kind of say, like, oh, the crowds are like this in this country, or the
Very
crowds are like
much.
this? Yeah, kind of talk
Very much
about that.
so.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, I feel like we can be
yeah,
honest.
true,
It's
true, sure.
cultural differences.
I mean, across New Zealand, I found very different cultures, but I also know that country. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, expect this region to be a little more stoic. And, like, so it's just,
Yeah.
but in Europe, it was quite contrasting, even though they're so
Contrasting.
close together, all of those countries.
Belgium, generally they're heavier drinkers and they are raucous, like a good time. There, a lot of Europe in general will like clap along to any song that has a beat,
Found
which
that
is
as the
great.
weirdest way to introduce like an encore. They're not like one more song. What they'll just keep doing, but everyone in unison. So it's
Like
very,
clapping faster.
yeah.
But Belgium is quite high energy. The UK was quite high energy, which was very fun. Um,
Denmark.
Denmark is, Germany is actually notoriously a more like stiff
Sure.
audience.
Yeah.
However, Denmark, as we found, was more stiff than Germany.
Oh
In
yeah.
Germany, we had a mix of audiences,
Depend on region.
some that were more aloof,
Mm.
but actually, in general, Germany, we had
They were punctual,
pretty
always on
always
time.
punctual,
Well before,
punctual. Yeah.
well before they needed to be there. Whereas Poland, the crowds always arrived a little later. But I loved the energy of the Polish people. So
The Polish people were also what we found like very huggy, very affectionate.
Uh,
So, like, wanted to give you a big hug afterwards and tell you how great it was. And the Germans were very polite, but like, stood a little distance away. So, yeah, you see a stark difference, especially because we have done
I mean,
4 tours in Germany,
the
in
difference
Europe.
between the American culture and the New Zealand one is also quite fascinating too, because it can be over congratulatory here in America, which we've got nothing against. We're like, yeah, tell us we're great, thank you. In New Zealand, they'll tell you it was good, and then you might get a really lovely message the next day.
Hmm.
Often they won't speak it to your face even. It's just kind of like acknowledge you, keep walking. So it's just different vibes. But
There's a notorious syndrome in New Zealand called tall poppy syndrome. Have you heard about this?
I've not.
So it's basically that they're a very humble culture and they don't want to like build you up unless you are the best at something. They don't want to heap on tons of compliments the way the US culture does. So in general, it's kind of like they'll cut you down a little bit if you're getting too big for your britches.
Oh,
Unless you
yes.
are the biggest in your genre, they're going to do a little bit of cutting down. That's why it's tall poppy syndrome. They'll cut down the tall poppies. So we've noticed a big shift over the years of playing in New Zealand, where I feel like when we first started out, it was a lot more aloof. And then now, as we're starting to build, then the audiences are getting more energetic and more complimentary.
yeah, and it's kind of like finding your audience in general too, because the area we play in, with it being folk, it can be some older audiences and very, very like incredible listening rooms.
Hmm.
Um, and those are very intimidating in their own right because you can hear every single note.
Mm.
But and then you compare that to a sort of younger crowd who are drinking heavily, or just even a crowd drinking heavily. There's more banter, there's a lot of energy in the room.
Yeah.
But yeah, culturally, it can be an age thing. It can also be what country you're in as well. But
It's also, we find,
Luxembourg, there wasn't a huge love of the arts there as
mhm,
much.
Luxembourg was a bit stiff. They're very French. But we also find a big difference in merch sales between countries.
Mm.
The kinds of merch that sell, and if they are a type of culture that tends to buy merch.
Yeah, like some countries they'll buy all the vinyl immediately that we have, and then other
Hmm.
countries it's just CDs. Other countries it's no merch at all. Like,
Hmm.
and it can, yeah, it's
That's
it
weird.
would
Yeah,
be fascinating to look more into that on like a wider scale of merch sales
Yeah.
across other artists as well, just to see if they're what we've experienced is the same trend that they've experienced too.
Hmm.
yeah, that is interesting. So, Nick, I have to imagine, like, you're from New Zealand. When you go home and you do this, what, 6 week tour in January, February of this year,
Mm.
for most of us, when we say, "Oh, well, yeah, like, we're far from home," it's, you know, an hour maybe or 3 hours or, a short flight away, but you're halfway across the world. Like, what does it mean to you when you go back and, you're kind of going back and forth from your homeland?
Yeah, I mean, this last tour meant everything to me, to be honest. Like, it was solidifying what we've been doing over here. When we first started going back to New Zealand to perform was during just after that pandemic period where like we still were going through a managed quarantine facility to get into the country. And so while we were in quarantine, we booked a few shows just to see how it would go. And it's any country, it's a stepping stone. You got to build, and you got to show people what you can do. And so yeah, this last tour was we wanted to bring Alex over with us, and so I worked really hard to book enough shows to cover our costs and get enough decent like festival opportunities as well to make it worth it for us. But yeah, to be able to bring this show that we have spent the last like 8 years working on and building and
Hmm.
developing, to bring that back home was incredible for me because I was able to showcase to a lot like New Zealand's 2 degrees separation. So, every show that we performed, you'd have someone coming up to me being like, "Oh, I'm your third cousin," or like, "Oh, I went to university with your mom and dad," and like, yeah, like great, like it's awesome. Everyone's very connected out there, and so it was such a special experience to do that. I do also feel extremely lucky to be a part of America too, to be a part of that country and this country.
Mm.
Because America at first was very intimidating with sheer size alone. To live in a city like Nashville, which felt like a town when I moved here, and it's grown into a much bigger city. I'm from the second biggest city in New Zealand, and that's not even 500,000 people, I think, somewhere around there. So yeah, it was a bit overwhelming, but the first thing is, you miss your family, you miss your friends, all of that, and then you start to build your own community through music, through I bartend as well, and so I've made a great community through that. And Danny has just like the biggest family. So pretty much anywhere in the
They
country we
do.
go, there's family. And
They're Catholics.
now that I've
They multiply.
been here long enough, I feel very much a part of her family as well. So it's yeah, it's special to be able to have a relationship with both countries to this sort of intimate level.
So for both of you, how are you both sleepers? Are you good sleepers when you're on the road? Are you good sleepers, or like
I'm
how
a
is
heavy
sleep?
snorer. And Danny's a light sleeper.
I am a very light sleeper, but I will say I feel like because I'm gonna probably have some bad sleeps, whether I'm home or on the road. When I'm on the road, we're tired enough, and it's like you learn things over time to make it easier on yourself. So this is so extreme. I wear earplugs and I have an eye mask that has Bluetooth headphones on it, so I can play white noise from my phone and not damage my hearing because I've got my earplugs in, but it still creates enough of a wall of noise that I've got the light blocked out, the sound blocked out, and I can still hear things around it. Like if someone tried to break into our house, I'd still hear it. That's how much of a light sleeper I am. But I also take melatonin, and it's enough where I can pretty much sleep anywhere at this
Da
point.
Danny's also like a crazy like energizer bunny. She has too much energy. I can't keep up with her.
Yeah.
But I can usually go off less sleep.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not, I can't go off of a little sleep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So also, I mean, getting to play in New Zealand this year after releasing of Sea and Sky, like that had to bring a whole new meaning to it as well because, talk to the audience. I mean, this was basically a concept album,
Yeah.
in its truest form, Talk about that. Well, first of all, talk about the evolution of the album and then bringing that to New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, the album idea kind of came out of the blue, where we'd written a couple songs for it, and I think the very first song written was Something in the Stars,
yeah, probably right.
and then the second one I think was Underneath the Blood Moon. And so
And
they
then maybe Southern Lights, do you reckon?
no, that
No.
was a lot
Okay.
later. So then all of a sudden like this, I think one of the songs off of the Seaside also Sticks and Bones, that's what it was.
Oh yeah,
Because
Sticks
Sticks
and
and Bones
Bones.
was the first song we wrote for it years ago is when that song started.
You're right.
And then the other two came along. So just the three songs we had were like the two about the sky and the one about the sea. And for some reason, it kind of just hit me out of the blue one day. I remember like coming into a band meeting or something and being like, we need to do a concept album. We should do it about these two things. And they were like, we only have a few songs. It's going to be kind of hard to write a whole album with just a few songs in that vein. But I feel like I was real gung ho about it and kind of pushed it
Hmm.
really hard
Yeah.
and kind of got them on the side. And then it was difficult to try to continue with the theme. And some of the songs lyrically fit the theme, but the titles didn't fit the theme, which
Mhm.
is something that drove me absolutely bonkers because I wanted all the titles to fit the theme. But you also have to do what's best for the song and not just name it something random just because it fits your concept album.
Like Winter Sleep, parentheses, Southern Lights.
More like The Mountains You Move.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, The Mountains You
Yes.
Move is one that like lyrically has a lot of ocean themes,
Mhm.
but when you look at the title, it doesn't fit. So yeah, and then honestly the sides kind of came together with the sky side being a lot more ethereal and the seaside being a lot darker and bluesier, just based on us trying to write in those boxes because it
Mhm.
feels more right with the bluesier songs to have that kind of sea theme. What are you doing, bud? Say hi. And this is the Dog River.
So yeah, we
Waking
do
up,
like
waking
water
up.
themes, as you can guess.
Yeah, exactly,
River,
exactly.
sit down, buddy.
But it was really special to bring it to New Zealand because it is really it matches New Zealand so
Yeah.
well. So we did make that joke a lot. There's even like Nick and I took a photo in New Zealand right after we'd finished recording the album. Gosh, 2022, I think, which
Yeah.
was a like marathon going around his hometown called the Sea in the Sky Marathon.
The sea to sky.
Sea to
Yeah.
Skies, the Sea to Sky Marathon. So it did feel like it had so many parts of New Zealand. Like it was very on brand for New Zealand.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I
Yeah.
So,
mean, it's
yeah, go ahead.
potentially inspired by some of the songs were inspired by the landscapes,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
So, sequencing for that album, obviously, because you had the two, themes, did that make it easier when you finally, like, kind of with the track listing and of everything?
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
did. The order of an album is always so interesting. And even I forgot the order and I looked back at it yesterday to write out the track list and I was like, is that really the order we put it in? Huh, okay.
Yeah. I also think that like the Tears of an Albatross interludes, I would have kept that as one song, just one interlude if we didn't have the concepts. It was
Yeah.
just it was a piece of music that had three sections. And once I'd finished it, I thought, well, actually, what if we split it up? It was kind of an afterthought, but I was like, well, it could start the album and finish the album, and it has the same melody with a different kind of feel to resolve it. Um, and then the middle section's a bit more chaotic, which sort of feels like it could help to bridge the two concepts together. So it was fun to sort of break it up that way. But yeah, track listing is one of those things that you can obsess about for ages. And then you start to think, well, how many people actually listen to this album start to finish? Like I do when I buy a vinyl, but so often I'm just like, I might give it one or two spins start to finish. And then I find the songs that I really like and I'm listening to those on repeat.
Yeah.
But yeah, Spotify's definitely made it more of a singles world, and we still love the artistry that comes behind making an entire album.
Mhm.
So, speaking of Spotify, right? I mean, a huge accomplishment, right? 50,000 monthly listeners. I mean,
Ah,
wow, right?
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
we're real stoked, eh?
We're real stoked. It's one of those things where from the outside it always seems like an accident. From the outside, people are like, wow, that number just happened. But behind the scenes, it's been years of learning how Spotify has an algorithm and pitching to individual playlisters, reaching out on Facebook, on Submit Hub, and slowly building and then getting on TikTok and learning how to grow in that way and connecting the two. So it's been like a real long game of building up to goals like that. And that was definitely a feather in the cap, even though you shouldn't base your career on numbers,
Well,
and we don't.
it's still really weird to me as well because a lot of online stuff is like, oh, that's a cool number, and it doesn't really necessarily mean much until you play a show and someone comes out and says, "Hey, I've been listening to this album since it came out. I know, like, we had our first show in London. It was this basement gig, real like shoulder to shoulder kind of
It
thing.
was like 20 cap.
Yeah,
That's how big the room
and
was, fit 20
and
people.
there's this one dude like sitting at the front, like on his phone, and I thought, oh, he's just, texting the whole time or something. And then on the break, I just was like, hey, you guys enjoying the show? And he's like, oh yeah, can I request some songs? So he just like listed five songs off the top of his head, and I was like, hey, hang on, you actually know our music? That's really weird. Like, 'cause we've never been here before, So that's the power of the global market.
Yeah.
And Spotify is very, very convenient, and it definitely has helped us get a wider reach. But yeah, as I say, those numbers don't mean a lot till you necessarily meet the people.
Well, some of your biggest super fans might have bought a vinyl years ago and listened just to the vinyl, which is
Mm.
especially true in the world that we're in. More people listen to vinyl from in the indie folk world than they do listen on Spotify.
Mm.
So it's like you never know if who's listening to your music out there.
Hmm.
Yeah. I know you guys battle with this, but I would love for you to share with the audience, that constant battle between your art being a commodity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's I feel like it's all about marketing and a lot of artists are like, I don't want to do the marketing. I don't want to get on TikTok. I don't want to do the daily social media posts. And I feel like since day one, Nick has a marketing degree and I just like learning about it. Since day one, we were very aware that
Each
we are the
each album
commodity.
each album is a product.
Yeah, it is.
And you package it as one with having a cover, album artwork, distribution, all of that. So the more you go into the music business, the more you are a commodity and you more you understand that that's what it is to be a musician as an originals artist. Yeah, you can create music and you can produce music, record it, release it even easier than ever, and just have do that from anywhere in the world. And that's great if that's all you want to do and create. Awesome, like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we've always been like, oh, we want to work out how to have like stability. Not that we've got to that point yet, but that's always been the goal. And so you have to treat it like a business and
Hmm.
um, do all of the things you don't necessarily want to do, which is why we always joke that often it's like 90% of the time is more the administrative work or the things you don't want to do. And then the 10% is the performance. So,
Right.
like we don't even, I feel like I don't practice that much these days, even.
Well, we also play enough shows that
That's
often
true.
if we practice if we have a new song
Yeah.
that we
Mm.
want to play at the shows, which we've started to do again recently. But until then, you're just often playing the same songs, and that is your practice.
Yes, that's a good question. How many new songs have you been playing on these set lists that have not been released yet?
Very few.
Okay.
Honestly, it's only been in the last couple of weeks because we have been we've been going into so many new markets that it doesn't make sense to play new songs in a new market when you can't sell the new songs.
Mm.
It's like you want to sell the materials that you have, and people say, "Oh, I like that song. Can I buy it?" So
Right.
we've been really focusing on Luxembra, our first album, in this new album in terms of the material that we play. But very recently, we've started to go back to some of the same places. And those ones are fun to try the new songs
Mm.
because they've already heard our other stuff. And
Yeah.
so their ears prick up when you're like, this is a new song. Please don't film it or post it anywhere. But,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah. I started traveling with bringing the banjo out on the road, which has been
Yeah.
fun. Because I've never really played banjo until like the last sort of month or so. It was just nice to like layer the sound with a different texture. But we did love playing out the second album as much as we could,
Yeah.
and then now we're just in that position of I guess we've found the flow that we like for our live performance, and after a while you start like I think the New Zealand tour was pretty much the same set almost every show,
Mhm.
which was awesome for us to get like our transitions down. And I loved when I told one of my nephews, I think he was like 8 years old at the time, was telling him about the tour, and he's like, "So you mean you just play the same songs every night? Isn't that boring?" It's like, yeah, yeah, I suppose you could say. I mean, ideally, we're just trying to get it like perfect, as good as possible, right? And he's like, sounds boring to me.
He's also at that amazingly honest age
Yeah.
where our first album, Luxembra, started out with a song called Twine.
Mm.
And so, right before we played a show that he came to this past time, then we were like, Theo, is there a song that you want us to play for you off of our music that you've heard? He said, Oh, I think Twine's my favorite song. But maybe that's because it's the first one on the CD and we don't get much further than that in the car.
Oh,
And
children's honesty, right?
Oh
his
yeah.
mom, Nick's sister, was like, "That is not true, Theo. Don't say that." We were dying.
Love it.
We laughed so hard.
So maybe it's because, we have joked about this before, but your music has been called murder ballads. We've
Yes.
heard this label. What do you think about that when that is thrown around when it describes your music?
I feel like at first, years ago when we heard it, we were a bit like, what is that? And then we looked it up and we were like, well,
Oh,
that's a good majority of our
by
music.
definition.
And
Yeah.
then we really leaned into it. We were like, well, I guess that's what we are, dreamy folk and murder ballads. So now it's in our bio, it's on our website, it's
And
kind of
it seems to
become a
be
marketing technique.
also somewhat of like a emerging sort of genre too, which is like the
Hmm.
Southern Gothic. Like I didn't realize how much of a crossover there is of Southern Gothic between folk and country. Obviously, those two have somewhat blurred the lines over the years.
Right.
But folklore has always been about storytelling, and that's a huge part of Southern Gothic music as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's been some great artists to look up to for us, like Amigo the Devil and the Dead South and Bridge City Sinners. So it seems to be a genre that is on the rise. It's Goodnight Texas, love those guys. Yeah, great music. So
It's so funny because people are freaked out by that phrase where they're like, "What do you mean murder ballads? You murder people? That's scary." And then as soon as you go, as soon as I go, I mean storytelling songs like Johnny Cash. And they're like, "Oh, I love Johnny Cash."
yeah,
Oh yeah, he does have songs like that. And then
like
they're less freaked out by it.
bluegrass world is full of people getting killed, right?
It really is.
Yeah,
They're all stories, and a lot of stories don't end happily. Like a lot of the memorable ones, at
it's like
least.
whiskey and death, or
Yeah,
whiskey and death together. Like it's
yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, you're
yeah,
just rewriting history, right?
I
Yeah.
know, exactly.
Danny loves to go real deep dive into it though when there's an idea
I do.
historically and be like, well, how can we tell that story? And like one of the most like stylistic songs off of the last album is a song called Redwater, and
Mm.
that's based on Rime of the Ancient Mariner. So I'm not sure if you've heard that maritime folklore before.
Like a maritime poem.
Okay.
There's some instances of it that are from the 1800s, but it's basically this really beautiful story. I won't go too much into it, but it was funny because when we wrote the seaside of the album, then we were really kind of scrounging for like a kind of sea shanty style song because we were like, if we're doing a seaside concept album, you have to have some kind of sea shanty-esque song. But we're not sea
You
shanty
can't go full shanty.
song writers, so we went kind of blues rock, kind of Viking style
Shanty.
but it's not even shanty, but kind of in that vein, I guess.
Yeah.
And so in order to find like the story to write about, then we listened to podcasts of like sailor stories and sailor lore for months on the road. And then all of a sudden I heard this one and instantly was like, all right, that's gonna become the song. So then it becomes about how to tell the story without just rewriting it, how to tell the story in a different way. And there's an albatross image in that story that became part of the name for Tears of an Albatross, like partially inspired that name. But it became like the perfect tie between the sky side and the seaside. The albatross kind of crosses both worlds. So that song was the weirdest song on the album. And it's funny because we really didn't promote it very much. And that is now one of the most listened to songs on the album. Was not released as a single and is one of the most listened to ones.
We were talking with some friends earlier today about how, like, when you used to release music, it was always, well, these are the songs that are going to be the hits because that's what the radio wants to hear. This is going to be, your audience is going to love this. But whereas Spotify has so many people on it and it's so niche, like now the genres, there's so many subgenres that you've never heard of as well, that it's like, apparently that's what our audience wants to listen to. So it's, you never quite know.
It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It really
Yeah.
is. So the Alex was part of this band for how long? 4
Almost eight
years? 8 years.
years. Yeah, as a full-time member, almost 8 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. That really is crazy. So
Yeah.
obviously you can share, you guys made an announcement a couple weeks ago about his departure. Like I said off camera, I thought it was so well done. What was the thought involved about, with that announcement?
Yeah, I think it's something that it's always hard when a band member leaves, especially when we played so many shows together. But we also started out as really good friends and continue to be really good friends. Today's his birthday. We popped into his work to say hi to him today. And it's also from the very beginning, we knew that there was going to be an end date on his time in the band. Not because we didn't think he liked the music or wanted to play with us or anything like that, but just because the road as a musician is an extremely grueling demon and one that most personality types do not enjoy. And you're also, if you have a partner at home and a life at home, you're leaving that every time you go out, and that is exhausting. And you're asking about like if we have difficulties sleeping on the road and stuff like that. We don't. We love the high of traveling and we get to travel together, But Alex has always really struggled with sleep on the road. And he's leaving his house, he's leaving his wife, he's leaving his dogs and his stability. And it's also really exhausting to talk with new people every single day. And often you're not even playing great shows for a lot of those 8 years because we're an indie band grinding from the ground up. So we kind of knew from day one, and he was very open from day one.
Sleeping in vans.
And sleeping in the van at night.
Yeah, which is great for those who can't sleep well. You know,
Yeah.
sharing a van with a married couple and a dog.
Sleeping in a van on a couch. So all of this to say, we talked so much with him from day one about how his dream was not this. His dream was to keep playing this music and ideally get to live more of the you do 3 months of touring out of the year and then you're done. You make your whole year's worth of payment. We were like, oh, we're not gonna get
definitely
there.
more of a studio. He's a great studio player as well. I mean, he loves performing, and like he said to us at the end as well. Not that he's dead to us or anything, but like at the end of his time in the band, he was like, "Yeah, I love performing with you guys. It's everything in between that is really hard to do." And I was like,
Yeah.
I get it, man. Like sometimes we're driving ridiculously long distances, or you're going through airports, and if you're an anxious person, that's very stressful to go through airports. So
Yeah, and for us, often whenever we get exhausted by the road, we step back and we're like, oh, we get to travel. We get to see these amazing things. And for us, that's enough to be fulfilling. But for most people, if their aspirations are not to, again, be doing this kind of indie hustle, to be playing much bigger venues and, having a more luxurious lifestyle, this is not the dream. So the fact that this is probably going to be our life for the next several years, if not forever, is very daunting to a lot of people.
well, and that was the thing when we started this band as well. We were like, well, this band will be our forever band because ideally I'm hoping she won't ever break up with me. So, like as long as we're together, the band's together is always my view. We've always loved writing together and recording together, and we were just extremely lucky to find such a great friend and bandmate to have on the road with us for the last 8 years. He's been a rock, sometimes hard to move, sometimes great to be a mediator. But he's definitely been an incredible friend to have on the road and a brilliant mind to work with in the studio as well. So I do hope that we'll be able to keep him involved to some extent in the recording side. But yeah, we're also excited to I guess rise to the challenge of seeing what else we can do for the next recordings, which is why I picked up the banjo and started doing some like more slide dobro and stuff as well. Just thinking about arrangements for the songs differently. Now that we're not just sort of falling on, well, obviously the cello goes there and we can layer that like it's a mini orchestra and stack it up. It's like
for a cello solo, we don't have to write anything there. And now it's like,
Sure.
okay, well, what other things can flesh it out instead of that? So it pushes us in different ways.
But yeah, a lot of thought went into that final message to say goodbye and let our community know that Alex won't be touring with us as much now, and well, probably not ever really. I think we've got one more show on the road with him for this year, which is going to be great to play. But
yeah.
Outside of it,
and you were asking if it was kind of a collaborative post, and it was one that we started together. Asked him if he wanted to write anything, and he said, "No, just send me what you want to post." Which is he's not really a social media lover, so we sent him like the post written out beforehand and said, "Are there any changes you want to make? Anything you want to say differently?" And he just was like, "No, it looks good. Just go ahead and post it." Yeah. So definitely was a post made with him and with his approval to make sure that it said things in a way that he also got to say.
And there were a lot of like very, very kind emails that were sent through to us as well, and to Alex too. So he will definitely be missed from the road, and his sound was incredible to add. I guess that huge bottom end, sonically that is, and and so now we're trying to get more crafty with our own performance as a duo, and we have also been we the other day practiced with another friend of ours who's going to fill in for one show Alex couldn't make in Virginia, and he's going to be playing some banjo and cello as well and doing some harmonies on that too. So we're still keeping it open to perform as a trio and also have the option of performing as a full band. But for a lot of next year, I think many of our tours will be as a duo.
Well, and it's nice that we over the years have always tested the waters internationally and at smaller shows as a duo.
Right.
So we're very confident in duo format, and we've really built the duo sound over the years to fill out as much space as we can, because in our minds initially it felt empty without a third person. So we kept adding instruments to ourselves.
Empty without the drums. You know, when we did our first album, we tracked as a 5-piece band, and then we're like, how do we play these songs live?
Yeah.
You know, as a 3-piece. And so then you start getting pedals, and then you go, well, we need some kind of rhythm element to keep us locked in, and hence the suitcase kick drum. Because I didn't have room in the van for a full kick drum. And then Dani was like, well, if you can do foot percussion, I can do foot percussion. So then she starts doing tambourine. And I'm like, oh, I guess we're rocking now. We got the 1 and the 2. So, you know, and then you're like, well, I can't bring a bass. I'll just bring an octave pedal along or whatever. And then you've got the bass frequency there too. So, you know, there's crafty ways that we can still play all the parts. And we're not doing like going down the looper avenue, but we'll keep bringing more instruments out with us too, so that we are a 2-piece band with 10 instruments on stage or something. You know, just to annoy the sound engineer a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more instruments, that's what he loves, right?
Yeah. They love it. They love it.
So we interviewed you guys in March of 2023, and it was with Alex, and so it was, you guys were playing as a 3-piece at that point. From a live perspective, what have you guys, like, how has that evolution happened? Because I got to witness it a couple weeks ago at Americanafest, but I want to know,
Yeah.
like, I want to know what your, take on your live performance has been in those 2 years.
Gosh, we've done a lot of live performances.
Hopefully the transitions are quicker and smoother. You know, that's one of the big things.
Back because it's like when you've gained weight and everyone else around you notices, but because you're the one gaining weight, you don't notice until one day you look back and you're at a photo and you're like, oh, I've gained weight. It's kind of like that. I feel like unless we heard a performance of ourselves from 2023, I have no idea.
Yeah,
How it's
your
changed.
voice has evolved. We noticed that massively from younger
We
recordings.
do listen back to the ones from like
Um,
2018. Our voices have changed massively as we've adapted to the sound and rounded out our voices and actually pulled in more of our choral training in order to
Sure.
get like more of the depth in the vocals.
Yeah, I would say depth is a good word. The depth within the set has changed. 2 years ago, yeah, I think that we could have played the, 2 45-minute sets of original music, but they wouldn't have had the same depth, and we would have had to add in maybe a couple covers here and there.
Would have felt a lot harder.
Yes,
Which
yes.
it did,
And
I think.
some in the early years, we definitely played some extremely inappropriate songs for the venue spaces in terms of like songs that we're just yelling,
Super dark murder
yeah,
ballads.
yeah, in a small like intimate
Like a
space.
real tiny theater where these older people are like, what is
What is
happening?
this? So
They're drinking their smoothies.
now we can, I think, tailor our music a lot more to our audiences.
Yeah.
So that's been really nice.
Yeah.
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 But that would be probably, I think, one of the bigger things.
I'd like to
Yeah.
think we sing in tune and play better. Like, less
Yeah,
mistakes.
you've come a long way actually in 2 years.
I do. I mean, it is funny because the goal has always been, like, as a vocalist, to sing in tune more. Because no matter what, when you're performing live, you're going to be pitchy, you're going to be anxious, you're going to hear things weirdly through the speakers, you're going to get some type of dysphoria from the cello and the acoustic guitar being slightly off from each other. Things that over the years you get better at just singing in tune because you lock in better, you know where the notes are supposed to be rather than trying to hear where the notes are supposed to be.
Sure.
And I think performance style, I think I've gotten better at my instruments.
Have I gotten worse? Is that
No,
what you
I mean, you've probably stayed the same because you were always better than I was at instruments. I've gotten better on the mandolin.
I mean, as a guitarist, I know the things that I've gotten better at in the last 2 years, and then it's just certain techniques that you work on more and more, and so it becomes easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest difference for me from then to now would be like starting to use more baritone.
Yeah.
That's probably something that, but we're also trying to consciously write some music for that as well. Because it's
Hmm.
just like, you perform and then people tell you stuff after the show. Like people have said, oh, do more of that. I'm like, okay, sure. All right, I'll sing more baritone.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think a set's still probably just as eclectic as it ever has been.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
still
well,
like
and
to be
that's
like,
that's the name of the game, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Keep
keep
them
the audience
guessing.
engaged,
Keep
right?
them
Keep them
awake.
guessing.
Keep them
Yeah.
awake.
Yeah, it's always
So,
impressive to me actually when you play a show and someone comes up to you and says, I noticed that you started with the same three songs that you did 2 years ago. And you're like, how do you remember that? It's amazing.
well, I mean, that's a good segue. Yeah, like what is like our set list becoming more important to you both, or is it still kind of a crapshoot?
We have new audience set lists that are pretty standard, where the flow is good. We know which songs work well. We can do a solid 2 45-minute sets that transition really well. Start out with kind of the older songs, so you warm into it, and then by the end, you're playing the newer songs. And so we have like our new audience set list pretty much down.
Okay.
Um, it's when we actually go back to places that it is a crapshoot of like, okay, well, how do we mix this up? Or what kind of vibe is this? Is this more of a festival style, or is this more of an intimate listening room? We still want to keep them awake, but we can pull out several of the slower songs, the softer songs that we
Mhm.
might skip in a typical set list for newer people that like might not hit as hard if you're trying to be memorable.
Yeah. Are there any songs then going forward that you more than likely won't play because you would be playing as a duo then, or is
That's an interesting question, but so far all of the songs that we
Red Water.
oh no, that's not that's we've never played that song live.
We never
So
played it with
hilarious.
Jello either.
Yeah, so that is funny that that's one of the most streamed songs off of the album when we've never performed that song live.
It takes so many stacks,
Uh,
so many vocal stacks.
Vocally, I'm like, I'm gonna have to get a pedal that can make my voice sound like four or five voices, I think. But
Yeah.
like Ed Sheeran?
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I think moving forward we'll probably still play all of the same songs. What's quite fun for me is the instrumental piece, Into the Eye. I had written that as a guitar piece years ago and called it And Many More because it was on one of my early like solo EPs. And then when I started performing with Alex, he was adding this cello top line, and it was incredible what he could do on cello. And the most fascinating thing I found was that we would do duo tours. We have over the last few years anyway. When we'd go back to New Zealand or go to new territories, we'd always travel as a duo first. And I'd perform Into the Eye as a solo piece, and then we'd come back and we'd perform it as a duo. And I'd have people come up to me, sorry, as a trio, and have people come up to me and say, "Oh, I really liked that instrumental piece you did last time. I also like the one you did tonight too, but and I was like, well, that's the same piece of music. The only difference is that there's a cello over top of it." And they're like, no, it's not the same song. I'm like, well, it is. It's just your ear is you're taking on a different journey because so I'm not going to say it's going to be better or worse. It's going to be different. Alex brings a lot of cool ideas and flair to the music. But I've always thought, a great song a, can be stripped back to even a cappella or just an acoustic guitar, not necessarily need everything else.
It is funny because it's very confidence building touring as a duo because it gives us confidence in the songs we've written that they hold up just as fine as a duo and that we're still getting a lot of the same audience reactions. Like Into the Eye has gotten many standing ovations when they're playing it as a duo, and it's also gotten many standing ovations when Nick plays it solo.
I find
So,
I perform it differently as well because it's the same notes,
Sure.
but what I'm playing is I'm playing to Alex when we're performing and we're playing at each other and trying to like put each other off and have fun in that way. When I'm playing solo, I'm playing to the audience. I'm trying to like play it up and engage them more. So it's a different performance in that regard.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I would have, I don't know if I would have looked at it that way or thought about it that way. So I'm glad you said that. Um, so let's talk about the van because
Oh,
you
boy.
can't talk
Love
about touring without this van. Of
Yeah.
course, Vanfest. I
Van
mean, you
Fest.
guys put a lot of time and effort into the transformation of this van. Talk to the audience about that because that had not happened when we last talked. I think you had, right? You had your van, but it
We had
wasn't
it since
anything.
No, we
2021.
when we went to South by, we had our van with us,
Oh,
and
you had it, but it wasn't fully loaded how it is now, right? Or
it probably,
was it?
I think it
I think
was. I think
so.
it
Okay.
was. Yeah, I haven't done a shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a couple more additions, a couple changes here and there, but
Some new
mostly,
cabinets.
yeah, some more
Okay.
Yeah.
cabinetry work. But majority of the build out was done probably 2021.
Yeah, we pretty much
Yeah,
finished it in 2021, but we probably just made it prettier and showed it off on social media more after that. So maybe that's why you thought that it
because
hadn't been
we
done.
purchased it in about 2020.
Okay.
And yeah, Danny was doing a travel nursing assignment, and she was like, "We're going to spend this money and be like, where did it go? How about we buy a van so that when we can tour again, we'll have a good vehicle for a reliable t touring vehicle because the van that we'd had at that time had blown two transmissions." And it was not exactly what you consider reliable to even go to Kentucky from
Nope.
Tennessee.
To even drive around the city, it
Yeah,
broke down
that's
in the
true.
city later
Yeah.
on.
Over the
Terrible.
Cumberland.
Yeah.
She got anyway, it's a whole other story.
Anyways, yep.
But yeah, so this new van, it was kind of a fun lesson in carpentry for myself as well, because I wouldn't consider myself a carpenter. I enjoy working with tools and whatnot, but this was a fun challenge because I was, fun employed living at home with the dog over the pandemic and just sort of working out, well, how do we build this van out to have everything we need to accommodate all of our instruments, merchandise, the dog, and three people to sleep in it and make it comfortable. So fortunately, there are websites you can even like plan it out with the graphics first and everything. Um, but really, it was a lot of YouTube. Alex watches heaps of YouTube, and he just knew exactly what episode I needed to watch every time I'd be up to something. I'd be like, dude, I'm stuck on this section here. I'm trying to install the kitchenette, like how do I do this? And he goes, okay, well, what you need to do is check out this episode from this van lifer. They'll have all the links in the bio of where you can purchase everything you need. So it was very terrifying because you've just bought this new van and then you're going to cut a hole in the side of it to put in a window. So I mean, I bought like a window for $30 from the salvage yard from the back of a
Uh-huh.
pickup truck and installed that. It was 5 feet long. And while I'm using the jigsaw, it was like, woo! So I'm thinking I'm going to have to buy a bigger window because I'm going to slice this too big or whatever. Fun parts like that. But it all came together, and we budgeted out what we could afford to do the build, and it saved us so much money on the road.
Especially as a
So much.
trio. Honestly, I feel like touring is at our current phase in life
Hmm.
is kind of doable as a duo. But as a trio, we needed the van
Mm.
so we weren't just losing tons of money every night on hotels and food because we've got a fridge that runs off of solar power and we've got some cabinets. So we just, rather than buying out, and also you feel better because you're not just buying
Yeah.
takeaway and McDonald's every day, but you have the van fridge fully stocked with food, do your Kroger runs in between gigs.
And then, like,
It's
you play a
life-saving.
show, and there's usually a state park to camp in, 30, 40 minutes away from the show. So we'd play the gig and then we'd drive to the state park. And if you've got the time or a day off, then you can enjoy the park. Or if you've got the morning off, go out for a hike, take the dog out, cook some breakfast over a fire pit or something. And or we've got the induction hob. There's 300 watts of solar panels on the roof, and so we're running everything as an off-grid kind of setup. Um, and it's been amazing for us. We still use it all the time, but not as much as when we first started hitting the road. Like that
Yeah.
first, I think 2022, we knocked out 43,000 miles in it or something like that.
Yeah, we've started doing
Yeah.
more international touring, which has saved the life
Save
of
the
the van.
van.
It would have been dead by now.
Yeah.
Right. You can't go to New Zealand in the van.
No, you can't.
So has there been any like incident with the van or like where you guys have been? Where has anybody tried to mess with you? Like any issues like with that, like being on the road
No
all the
safety
time?
It's
issues.
another reason why I prefer camping at
Hmm.
state parks is they have security. We've done like Walmart car parks and all of that in the past, and we used to just be a little bit more like urban camping's fine. But as a guy who has lived in three vans from his 20s to now, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of over the idea of getting that tap on the window from the police officer saying you can't sleep here, move on. And yes, there's always the security worry of someone trying to break in.
Right.
So yeah, we haven't really had any issues, which has been great.
No,
I'm
and
really
we've
lucky.
we've taken precautions,
Yeah.
like Nick said, based on where we camp, and also
We don't have a trailer that we're lugging around as well, which
we
is a big thing.
refuse to get a trailer because we know so many artists that have the trailer cut off and had their vehicle stolen. We've also not put any like emblems or anything on the van
Yeah,
because we
no,
prefer to be stealth camping so people don't know that there's a band or that there's people inside the van
yeah, because
sleeping at
it's
night.
the equipment that's the expensive part, you know, like, and if you see this van, it's just going to look like any van lifer, you know, the classic ProMaster Amazon looking vehicle
Right.
with a roof rack or something on. You can, and so you might be thinking, oh, there's probably someone living in there, so perhaps they wouldn't want to try to break in. Who knows?
Well, it's also when it's cool enough, when the weather's okay, and we've got vent fans and stuff in the van, but we take River with us on tour. So it's like if we are out of the van for a bit and she has to stay in the van, then she's guarding the van. She's an absolute sweetheart, but has the
Actually,
scariest bark, which
I
is great.
just realized the only issue we've ever had with this van.
Well,
What?
So, this was a quick trip up to Toronto for a friend of mine's wedding, and we somehow like the week before we were going to drive up there, this house concert was like, "Do you ever come to Toronto?" And we're like, "Yeah, we'll be there next weekend." So then we ended up playing a show in Toronto as well while we are up there. But yeah, I had the van. We parked it by this wedding venue that we were going to attend, and then called an Uber into the downtown to catch up with friends. And on the way back in the Uber, I left the van key in the Uber, and the Uber like disappeared, would not respond to us or anything. And so we had the dog like in there with fans on and stuff because we'd only been out for a very short time, and because the windows were open, I was able to break in through the back window, the one that I had installed, and not set off the alarm system within the ProMaster, which would shut down the entire machine. And you wouldn't be able to use it. It's like their safety mechanism. If it's broken into, it just shuts down, won't turn
Wow.
on. And you've got to get it reprogrammed by the manufacturer at that point. So instead, we, attempt to sleep in this van more or less downtown. I can't lock it. I could unlock it, but I couldn't lock it again because we didn't have the key fob or anything with us. So yeah, that was the biggest drama was me losing the keys, and then the next day the Uber driver finally messaging us back only to try to blackmail us for 300 bucks or something, I think it
Oh,
was.
yeah, yeah. His
And we're
messages were like, if I will bring you the keys if you pay me $300. And we were like, that's illegal, and Uber should prevent that. You're supposed to give the lost items back.
for
And
$25 or
so
whatever.
finally, and we'd already actually just spent money on getting new keys made, having someone come out to us.
right.
And so the keys were useless anyways, but we were curious to see what he said. So we kept messaging him, and he was like, I'm just gonna leave your keys somewhere on the sidewalk. Don't you think it's dangerous to just have your car keys somewhere? What if someone finds your vehicle and breaks in and hurts you? It was so weird. And we were like, this is Canada. This is
They
supposed to be the nice
built them differently
area.
in Toronto, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
but that was a
You
fun
should
little.
write a song about that.
Yeah.
Left my keys in the Uber.
Little Waylon Jennings kind of vibe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh yeah, well that was a fun night, but I'm glad that was the worst that we've had to run into anyway.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
for the most part it's been smooth sailing. I'm going to knock on wood right now because if I hate to say that about touring because there's always things that can go wrong. But yes, you hope for the best, prepare for the worst is always what it is.
Yeah. And it seems like you guys have really put yourself in a position to be successful with regards to the van. I mean, how you have it set up. I mean,
Yeah.
how your life is, right? I mean,
Stability on the road is, I think, very, very hard to achieve. And so for longevity of touring, it's every year we say we do get a little bit more bougie. That is not to say we are, but it is like,
We have standards now,
yeah,
which we didn't
yeah,
have in the past. So that's
exactly.
a lot better.
Exactly. So it is knowing that, you can't go out and drink with these people you've just met till 2 a.m. and then no do it again the same night, the next night
Yeah.
after that. I mean, it happens every now and then, but ideally you do have to think, well, I do have to drive 5 hours tomorrow to get to the next gig. I'm going to be there at the venue for 6 to 8 hours, from setup till pack down after the show and everything like that. So, there can be pretty long days.
Mhm.
And then you're like, well, I'm only going to be in this town and have 3 hours where I can explore it, before I've got to get to that venue or whatever. So for us, we really maximize all of our days off when we're traveling because this job enables us to be able to travel together and see some incredible parts of the world, that we wouldn't probably have been able to afford to go to otherwise. So yeah, we try to maximize our time massively on the road and do everything we can, which is why, yeah, burnout is very real for a lot of artists.
so I got to ask this. So, because obviously most of your fans know that you're together, right? You're not just a musical couple, you're actually together. Have you ever gotten any weird requests from fans?
A couple. Oh, we played at a retirement home. Just it was actually a real great gig. There was like 150 people there. It was great. And Nick's mom was in the audience
Oh, that's fun.
visiting. This was so funny. And so we said, oh, shout out to Nick's parents for coming here. And this woman comes up to Nick, this woman who's obviously
That's like
living,
my mom, wasn't it?
or
She
sorry,
was
comes
talking to
up
my
to
mom.
Nick's
Yeah.
mom. And she comes up to him and she's like, is that really your son up there? And Nick's mom was like, yeah, yep, that's my son. And she was like, oh, God bless you for bringing that beautiful man into this world. And Nick's mom started getting really uncomfortable. And this woman goes, he could eat crackers off my bed any day of the week.
There was one in Germany where a guy like got everyone up dancing and he just like walked up to Danny
Oh, he
with
just
his
started
phone.
filming my
I was
boobs.
like, what is he filming? Oh,
And I wasn't
yep.
trying to call him out. I mean, just random stuff happens like that where it's like, Alex noticed. I'm just kind of trying to walk around like this, trying to pack up our stuff, and he keeps coming over and saying weird things to me. I was like, whatever. You just do your own thing. But, Alex noticed, and Alex came over to me. This was so sweet. And Alex was like, do you need me to say something? Are you okay? He is filming your tits every time he walks up to you. I'm like, oh, I know. I'm shocked that you noticed. I'm like, I'm trying to subtly just cover up and up. But you just get random people that say weird stuff or do weird stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, that's just putting
Nothing
yourself out
anything.
in public in general. You're gonna
Yeah.
have meet some strange characters, but I think for the most part, with the sort of music that we play, the genre that we're in, we tend to meet a lot of like-minded individuals and really only have good experiences.
Yeah.
And if you have a weird experience, usually it's like, well, let's leave as soon as we can, and then
Yeah.
you'll be on to the next thing, and it's fine.
And then you never go back.
But we do have one saying, which is leave it to the van. So when we're in public, when we're in a venue, and if someone is being a bit weird, or it's just like, don't comment on it, keep your professionalism, and then when you get in the van, be like, that was weird, man. And that's when we talk about it,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but we don't want to talk about it in
Don't
case you'll offend someone at the,
don't talk bad about the
yeah.
venue, don't talk bad about the person, nothing like that until you get to the van and then you can debrief.
I love sound engineers. Yeah.
So living in Nashville, like, I mean, when we went down to Americanafest a couple weeks ago and got to see you guys, like, it reminded me, like, A, I love the city, but B, like, the amount of talent that is in this city. Like, just talk about just the musical talent that you've witnessed or that you've gotten to work with just
Mm.
being in this city.
Oh, it's insane. It's honestly so driving and so humbling. And everyone around you is hustling just as hard as you are. And I think from day one, that's the reason that we hit the road and started touring in 2018 because we were like brand new as a band, had our first product, and I was like, we need to hit the road. That's what people do. we just have to start. And so then you see all of your friends do it. And again, it pushes you, and you also see them learning all the marketing side of things. So you're observing them and you're learning how to market yourself as a band
I also
and how to
describe
pitch
it.
yourself.
I describe it as like you're exposed to some of the greatest guitarists you've never heard of. Like greatest musicians, greatest songwriters. There's so many people trying to do this career. It also makes you realize how unlikely it is that you will be able to have a career in music
Mm.
because there's so many incredibly talented people out there.
Yeah.
Nashville's just an absolute mecca for it.
And the importance of what you were saying earlier with kind of treating yourself as a commodity, because we know so many insanely good musicians that absolutely despise the marketing side of things and just do not want to do it. They're like, I just want to play the shows, or I just want to release the music. They want to do one or the other, not in between. And you're like, I I just I want to help you, but we don't have time to help you because we're also doing our own thing.
Yeah.
But you're like, you want to see everyone succeed, but you also notice the people that put in the work, their careers are going up like this. And so, yeah, it is very inspiring.
But it's a music community unlike anywhere else in the world. And we've been really fortunate to find our people in the time we've been living here, and that are
Mhm.
also doing the indie grind. And we can all help each other out and vent if you need to, or share
Mhm.
connections and contacts. And so, yeah, it's living in Nashville is incredibly intimidating and inspiring at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think that's probably a good way to describe it. So, um, so new music, you said a little bit that you've been playing a couple new songs. Like, what is the plan then for 2026? You kind of alluded that's going back into the studio and
Yeah, we actually, right now, we're finishing up. I think we have 7 new songs that we have written. Doesn't mean all of them will get recorded, but
yeah.
7 demos that we've done. And we're going to go into the next few days. What?
Sorry.
We're going to go into the next few days and try to write some more. And we're actually in the pitching stage. So we are, for the first time ever, really, actually pitching to labels and just independent labels, not the big labels, because we've
Yeah.
all heard those horror stories. Not that they'd be interested in us anyways, but we're pitching to people that could be a good fit for our music, because we do feel like, you know, the music world is quite hard, and we'll probably there's still a high chance that we'll release our next record
There's
independently anyways, but we
there's
just want to.
doors that we can't open. Like, I we've been self-booking for years, and we know that if we want to get into certain festivals, we need to be with certain agencies,
Yeah.
and it's hard to get in with all of these people. So if we can get a label assisting or a booking agency that we want to work with, then it can really grow our career faster than what we can do by ourselves. So I think it's just a logical step to see what options are out there, and if we can find the right one and they want to work with us, then amazing. And if not, who cares? We'll just keep making more music anyway,
Exactly.
keep touring.
Yep.
We played this great show over the weekend in Calgary, as we're saying here, with a friend's band, and I just loved their perspective because it was the exact same perspective we have, which is the music industry is a vocation. You're called to do it whether or not you're making money off it or whatever. It's like this is something that people have a passion for, and we're extremely lucky that our passion has taken us around the world, and that we've been able to make some music we love with people we love.
Yeah, and you guys, how well did you guys do in that international songwriter competition?
We got into the
Semi-finals?
semifinals of
Yeah,
2 years of it.
yeah.
Okay.
2022, I think, was
For
with
Twine,
Stone.
so it was Stone and
Stone,
Into the Eye.
Stone and Into the Eye.
Yeah,
And then for Underneath the Blood Moon, that was in 2023.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. So you got semifinals for both years then?
Yeah,
yeah.
for 3 songs. And then at the International Acoustic Music Awards, we got a song into that one, into the semifinals as well, or finals.
We got
Finals for best
finals for best
best
group
group or
or
duo,
duo.
which was like
Yeah,
the really, really
and
cool.
and best music video, I think it was as well, or something like that. But yeah, no, we try to enter everything, and some I've often heard like, "Oh, you guys are doing so great," and I'm like, "Well, we don't promote the things we don't get, right? Like, you got to apply for everything and put yourself out there, and we're not going to be like, well, today, guys, congratulations, we didn't make it into this. We're just going to let you know." But no, we've been really lucky to sort of get a bit of a nod from those kind of competitions. I mean, they're extremely hard to get anywhere, and
Yeah,
especially the ISC.
Yeah.
That's an incredible competition. That one, it was 150 countries or something around the world that are involved in it. It's pretty epic.
Mhm.
But yeah, to sort of even feel like you're up there, you see the names that you're going against, and like, it's intimidating. You're like, these are your idols, and you're like, never really see yourself in the same seat until you're sitting beside them. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's as big as like Eurovision, right? I mean,
how good would that be to be
That
on
would be
there?
hilarious. We're moving to Europe just to get into that.
I I've watched like YouTube clips of like those performances. Like they go all out. Like some of
Oh
those.
yeah.
Sure do.
I've actually been told that when I bring out my like operatic baritone voice, it's reminiscent of the like bad guy from Eurovision with Will Ferrell.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The like
Okay.
tiger guy or whatever it is. Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Uh,
Oh my God. So I guess my question then to you both is, Nick, you're from New Zealand. Like Danny, you've pretty much lived in Nashville your entire life, right?
No, I'm from
Oh,
Colorado, and then I actually lived in New Zealand for a bit as well.
okay.
When we first started playing together, and then I've been in Nashville off and on for 11 years.
Okay. So would there be a city that you would both live in that if you weren't in Nashville right now that you could both agree on that wasn't New Zealand?
If it wasn't New Zealand,
Yeah.
well, I mean, our future is definitely in New Zealand. We've that's the place that we've both agreed to.
Christchurch is my hometown in New Zealand, and that's definitely where we'd like to base ourselves in the future.
Okay.
Otherwise, we've talked about Colorado, which is where my family's from, but the problem is Nick's body does not agree with the altitude.
No, it's not great, isn't it?
Not great for him.
I mean, personally, I've always thought like outside, if it wasn't living in America or New Zealand, then I would. You've got that. Like, we went to UK earlier this year, and I was like, it's not quite for me.
No.
I quite enjoy Germany. I think there's some interesting parts there, but Melbourne's one of my favorite music scenes, and I would probably
Mhm.
push to be somewhere like that. But like Nashville's such a perfect place for trying to pursue this.
Mhm.
Even as geographically, it's very well situated for touring markets, and it's actually still affordable compared to like the other major hubs like Los Angeles and New York. Um,
I also did love Edinburgh, but Edinburgh is also
yeah,
just as touristy.
Scotland was pretty
As
neat.
touristy as Nashville, but Edinburgh
Yeah,
is beautiful.
and oh man, Maine is pretty stunning as well.
Maine in the winter I've not
Mm.
experienced, and I don't think I'd be prepared for that kind of life. Vancouver is also one of those.
That's true. Vancouver's an incredible
Vancouver's
city if you can
stunning,
afford
but
it.
expense, you know.
Very
Yeah,
expensive
Every
though,
city has a
right?
caveat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Exactly. And it's always the people and the community you build anyway. You
Yeah.
you can find what you're looking for if you really search for it.
Mm.
yeah. I'm so jealous of you both that you have gotten to travel so much across the world. I have never been to Europe, and the reason that I have told myself that for 47 years is I know that when I go there, I will not want to come back.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that way when you go to one of these countries? You're like, man, I could really stay here, other than obviously New Zealand.
Yeah, I was gonna say that to me is the only place.
Yeah.
And still, every time I go back home, I'm like, why don't I live here? Why,
Yeah.
it's not that far away from everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love Germany. Germany is stunning, but it's still a different culture
Yeah,
that it would
massive
take me.
change.
I
Yeah,
feel like it'd be hard to connect with people if we were living there. It'd take a minute.
Netherlands is quite nifty. I like Netherlands a lot.
Yeah, and Edinburgh was one of the
Yeah,
ones where he's had some friends from New Zealand that moved to Edinburgh, so we got to hang out with them and stay with them and actually get a little taste of their life. They're just doing 2 to 3 years in Edinburgh before moving back to New
I
Zealand.
could see myself living in Scotland.
Yeah, and I was like, that was one where I could picture
Mm.
if we were younger and not pursuing music. I
Yeah.
could have pictured us doing something like that, going and living
I'm like a little
elsewhere.
like terrified of how much I know I'll love Ireland. I've not been there yet.
Yeah.
I've got so many good Irish friends. I love the culture. I know that like I would have too good of a time. But that's definitely another place that I think I could live in
Hmm.
Yeah.
without having even been there yet. That's the weird thing. But yeah, Scotland, I fell in love with the landscapes, which to me, I think as I'm getting older, I feel like I need to be in nature. I need to be
Yeah.
near nature. I can't. I'm not good with big cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny how like depending on where you're at in your life, yeah, your perspective changes on what's around you isn't more important, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like, when you were back in January and February, did you kind of get an idea like are there bands that are based in New Zealand that can kind of like just be self-sufficient and like be touring just in New Zealand and like that be enough?
No,
Or is it you're not in that place yet?
New Zealand's an interesting one because there's a lot of acts that I like admire and think are doing incredibly well. Um, I don't think the country's quite big enough to be able to full-time tour as an independent
Hmm.
musician that's an original artist.
Okay.
I think you can definitely do a few very successful tours each year. But, you know, to name a few artists that I would highly recommend you check out as well, Nadia Reid, she's been sort of, in my opinion, sort of queen of folk sort of stuff for a while in New Zealand. She's doing really well in the UK scene as well, played at Glastonbury this year. And then you've got like Mel Parsons. Mel Parsons has been on tour opening for Crowded House. Obviously, Crowded House is a very big household name, but they branched out to America and worldwide beyond. So
Okay.
there's a lot of really great acts coming from New Zealand, and it's a great like emerging Americana scene. Delaney Davidson, Marlon Williams, Aldous Harding, some incredible talent coming from a very small country, but to support itself, that's why I think that there's more grants as well,
Hmm.
because you need that in the smaller sort of countries like New Zealand of 5.5 million or something,
Okay.
around that number to be able to support it. Yeah, we've got a few good friends like Albie and the Wolves. They're touring and they're going to be heading to Europe as well. But I guess the one benefit is you've got Australia very close by as well, so it's only a few hour flight, so
Okay.
it's not too far.
Is Australia pretty welcoming to New Zealand bands coming in? Like, or it's not,
Yeah,
you don't have that like
they
border
it's
have like a
like
shared
rivalry.
visa.
it's the same kind of relationship with Canada and America.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I could get a work visa over there overnight kind of thing. So it's not too difficult to work over there.
Okay.
The distances are huge. So just like touring in Canada, you have a lot of space in between to connect the dots. So Australia, I think, actually has a phenomenal acoustic guitar scene in particular. But I mean, obviously, I'm as an acoustic guitar player myself. I look up to a lot of these guys like Daniel Champagne or your Tommy Emmanuel, John Butler trio. Like there's some really incredible like Angus and Julia Stone. Obviously, wish I
Hmm.
was actually related to them. Nick Stone being here. So, but no, there's a great acoustic music scene coming out of Australia as well. I think touring in general doesn't really matter what country, and it's still difficult to make it sustainable.
Yeah.
But here in America, you have the population that it should be able to support it. That doesn't mean that, like I think, for example, we were playing in Lake Orion, which is just north of Detroit. And it's a great show. It was an awesome show. And that same night, like an hour and a half away, was Zach Bryan playing at the Michigan Stadium to 112,000 people. And I was like, I can't fathom this. Like, this is insane. There is literally
Hmm.
like 1% of musicians who were having the biggest shows in the world.
Yep.
And then you have so like the other 99% of musicians who are fighting for these other opportunities. And yeah, it's but on top of it, it's just as difficult if not more so for the live music venues than it is for the artists. So it is good to try to put yourself in their position as well, and that's why I think that like we as a society, we need to go out to support these shows if we want them to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just
It's
like the big stadiums, you know? It's like go see your local band play. Because I always remember going to see the local bands play, and you look around the venue, and all the other local bands sitting
Yeah.
in the venue as well, and you're just like, is this the same $5 that you paid them that's going back to you or whatever? It's
it
this
just
whole
goes
circle,
around.
yeah,
Yeah.
the circle of musicians economy.
Yeah.
It's funny too because like if you look at the three now most recent artists that have, broken the stadium record, right? It was the Grateful Dead originally, George Strait, and
Hmm.
now Zach Bryan. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Crazy.
it's crazy. Like, and I have friends that listen to Zach Bryan that are huge fans. I have listened to most of his albums. I just can't get into him, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not for me.
No, and I think there's a couple of songs where I've kind of gotten it where I'm like, I can see the appeal, but it's not quite the kind of music I listen to either.
Yeah.
But we always say we're like, it's easy to be a critic, and like if you have connected with that many people, like you're obviously doing something really, really well. And I think it is this like storytelling diary effect type thing. Like that's the Ed Sheeran's approach is very good storytelling. Could
I
be
do
quite
love me some Ed
specific.
Sheeran. I think he's extremely talented.
Oh yeah, amazing. And then like, and Taylor Swift's of course. Where the Swifties are not to be messed with. There's it's incredible when you can get to that level, and I could never fathom to that extent.
Hmm.
It's very strange when people start to get idolized, I suppose, at that level. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you said that about the Swifties because we got to see Oasis this year on their
oh,
reunion tour. And so we got to see night two up in New York City. And I said to my girlfriend while we were sitting there, I think I know now what a Swiftie feels like because
Ah,
it was that level of like pandemonium for that band. I mean, like
wow.
I have never seen that many people in a concert, let alone stadium venue, whatever, like have as much merch of a band on as the Oasis show. Like I could
Wow.
not believe almost everyone I saw had some sort of merch on, which is unbelievable,
oh, and
like
beyond the merch, there's like everyone knows the tracksuits and like
right.
this, so
Yeah.
everyone's
The
dressing
bucket
like their
hats.
favorite
Yeah,
Gallagher. It's
yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it was amazing.
it's
Yeah.
the beauty of music that music can become part of someone's memories,
Yeah.
where it's like everyone has a different association with Oasis's music, but it's still connected with all of them. Same with Taylor Swift, same with Zach Bryan. It's like that song, as soon as you hear it, it evokes a feeling and it evokes a memory that is so strong that it's like a visceral reaction.
It's like the marketing of Red Bull is a weird example. When they first came out, they were like gifting them for free to college students around the world, right? Specifically in Europe, and they would like make it synonymous with a good time, and that was kind of their initial structure. So it is sort of interesting with music; it becomes such a cognitive memory, even if you're not aware of it. And that's the other fun part that you talk about is like by the third time you've heard it, you're like, oh, I think I've heard this song, or fourth time. And so it's all these different other avenues that you want to get people exposed to your music so that they can feel like they already know it.
Well,
Yeah.
music especially it's basically the sound and the feeling and the words and all of that interacts with so many different parts of your brain, but the actual core of the music is really, really deep within our brain to the point where people with Alzheimer's, for example, will be very late stage Alzheimer's. But if you play certain music that they knew from growing up, often you can actually bring back the person for a little bit because the memories are so strong. So it's really beautiful how music is truly like deep in our minds. It's embedded in our minds.
And we
Yeah,
just,
if you like replay a Matlock episode for grandma, she'll remember that.
She'll come back.
yeah, we definitely overanalyze it too much. And it's kind of fun to sort of, I remember a friend saying to me, it's like, what the weird thing is you hear a song and hear all the parts that make it up. And I just hear the whole thing. Like,
Mhm.
that's to him what it is. And I was like, it's weird. I can never picture music that way. So it's sort of harder often to know this is why I don't. I mean, the product system, right? Like often you're like, are you making it for the audience that already exists, or are you making something just for fun, or
Right.
what is your intention behind the song, behind your creativity, I suppose. And yeah, it's really strange because I couldn't write a song that I'm like would be a hit or a pop track or whatever. It's like, no, we just like to write this kind of music and we hope other people like listening to it, you know?
Yeah. So speaking of music, is there a song that you've written of this new batch that you guys are both really, really like kind of like, oh wow, like this could be something?
The new batch, there's a few songs in there that feel quite special. I think right now we are connecting with different songs in the batch where
Mm.
um a few of the songs feel very much like us, very much like you hear those and you're like, that's exactly a song Seth for Winter would write. They're kind of in the darker, spookier, bluesier realm. And then there's a few that are kind of a curveball. One especially that I'm actually struggling with the thought of releasing because it is far more probably commercially viable than we typically go for, which is probably a good thing. But it's something that it's like you battle with
Kind of
the
reminds me of
interest,
the Avett Brothers. I don't know why, but
Yeah, nice.
yeah,
which is much different than we typically go for.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like at this stage, we're just really enjoying layering all the tracks and seeing what we can come up with, and it's yeah. I definitely feel like there's a couple of the songs in there that I think are very special. Um, when there was one song that Danny played me in particular that I literally like cried.
It was a highlight.
And I
I
was
was
like,
so
oh
proud.
man, like it hit me. It was, sometimes the story or the lyric is so close to home.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I don't know. Like I don't know how it's going to be received by other people, but all I know is I'm really excited with the new songs we have been working on
Mhm.
and the new direction. It still feels very South for Winter, just as an evolution. And that's what it always is,
That
right?
was the
Like
goal.
the first album, we had a extremely like very like classic rock almost rhythm section, and then this new one we were like, oh, we want to go more post rock, little more space to the sound.
Sure.
And yeah, it was like we heavily analyzed that album, and we had a lot of time on the road to like plan it out. And now this is just like full creativity. Like we're not trying to finalize these ideas. We're trying to like pull every idea that we have, track it in the home studio, and evolve it, and arrange it as well. So yeah, it's been really fun. I mean, there's
Exciting, right? Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's sort of like the reminder, right? So when you play a show, you're finishing, you're on a high. The same feeling is what you get when you're writing a song, and
Yeah.
and and then when you hear it back the way you want to hear it back as well. It's really exciting. So
Yeah.
that's definitely the thing that keeps us going back to do it time and time again. And I always feel like, oh, I don't know where we're gonna come up with more song ideas, and then Danny just usually just drops something out of nowhere, and I'm like, well, where'd that one come from? So she's very prolific.
I was going to
Um,
ask you, have either one of you written, like whether you were obviously like in the songwriting process, like have you either one of you written a lyric where the other one was like, "Hey, is that about me?" or not really?
I feel like it's usually quite obvious if it's about each other. Have there been any that have been curveballs?
Danny does tend to write more songs that aren't about us.
Okay.
But I can usually tell if it is about us for
Something in
sure.
the Stars.
Yeah.
Something in the Stars. I showed Nick the lyrics because that one is our story. And he was like, very much like, oh, is that about us?
I've always been tempted on a weird side note about something in the stars. That started as like a post rock jam that me and Alex had done. And Danny was doing travel nursing in Colorado, and I sent her the track, and she was like, "Can I write a song to this?" I was like, "Sure, go for it." So it actually evolved from a very different place, and there were a lot of like B-sides, like demos, if you will, for creating the last album because we like to record everything at home first, work out all the arrangements, and then go and use the best possible equipment you can, and increase the quality ideally, and at a professional studio. So yeah, there's a lot of like cool versions of these songs that were never released that I'm like almost tempted to make as like a B-sides type thing, you know?
For a
But
Down the
10 year.
road,
yeah, maybe for a tenure or just
yeah.
like we'll put it on Bandcamp for fun or
Yeah,
something. I don't know.
no.
It'll be it's quite cool to see. I love hearing where songs come from and like when we watched, I'm sure you've seen the latest like Beatles documentary that Sir Peter Jackson was involved in. Yeah, I mean, incredible to see those guys. It's like, oh, Paul
So
McCartney
cool.
being like, oh, I got this idea, the long and wide, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's in its infant
So fun.
stages, but you can hear where it ended up. So
It's
yeah.
fu- it's funny you talk about that because I have heard now from multiple people that like the reason that more bands didn't film themselves back in the day was because it was so expensive.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
only like the Beatles, like Pink Floyd, like all your big Zeppelin, all your big bands, those were the only ones who could afford it. But
of
like
course. Yeah.
nowadays, like anybody can.
Well,
It's
it's the
great.
same thing with recording as well. Like you cut out 70% of the industry that
Right.
would be today if you were still had the same gatekeepers
Mhm.
because you if you got the option to record an album, you'd probably be statistically more likely to be successful because there were far less people that could afford to even record. So the fact that now, like, anyone who has any some like somewhat basic idea of how to record audio can make a song and can release that pretty effectively with international distribution.
Yeah.
So it's kind of wild, isn't it? It's so like we look at those statistics and they're saying, oh, there's 5 million songs that have never been played, or there's 100,000 songs uploaded to Spotify a day. Like, how do you cut through the noise? And that's the rise of like mediocrity as well. So
Yeah.
it's
So my last question for both of you, and I want you to answer it individually. For you both, what is the best way and where is the best way that you like to listen to music?
Unfortunately, Spotify.
Oh, okay. For me, the best way is in my home studio and cranking on my power tubes and putting on my floor standing clipped speakers. So I have an environment which is this is my space where I love to consume music, and my favorite way to consume music is vinyl.
Vinyl. We have a
But
vinyl
we
player.
travel so much. The
Yeah.
reality is that I am on streaming services all the time, and I do love being able to go to a favorite artist. If I can't be bothered working on a playlist or whatever, go to a favorite artist and chuck on the radio, and I'll end up hearing some song I've never heard before and being like, I've got to add this. I like this song, and it you find so many bands. Like I feel like every year when you get your Spotify rap and all this kind of thing, I'm like, man, I listened to like 30,000 new artists this year. That's crazy. How did that
Yeah.
happen? Like,
It is crazy.
Yeah, and it goes to show you, you're right. I mean, it is like to get to kind of separate yourself from all that, it is. It's just more and more difficult to do that.
mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I love it. I've started to notice people asking us like where they're like, oh, we don't use CDs. Where can we download your music that you will actually receive payment for? And I found that to be something that's becoming more of a trend, which is interesting.
Mm.
Because like I just figured it's easier. Everyone's going to just stick on these platforms,
Yeah.
but they're becoming perhaps more and more aware of how little money is getting trickled down. And the
Mhm.
fascinating thing is like if you're with a bigger label, then those artists actually receive more money too, because that's the agreements that they have.
Mhm.
So it's quite interesting that not all artists are paid the same amount per stream too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so to actually have people be like, "Hey, can I go to Bandcamp?" And now that's a platform where we're releasing a lot of things before we release it on Spotify,
Mhm.
and it's helping us pay off a lot of costs as well. We're like,
Yeah.
even 2 weeks on Bandcamp before it being on Spotify can generate more than we might make that entire year from
Yeah.
Spotify. So it's kind of interesting.
It's
Um,
crazy, really. It's
yeah,
really
it
crazy.
is. But also, I see it as like a marketing tool that
Yeah.
musicians never had in the past. That now you can be like, well, I can use this analytics to know where I need to tour,
Mhm.
to know what bands are similar to us that we could collaborate with as well. Like there's it's pretty powerful. But yeah, good and bad,
Yeah.
however you choose to look at it.
Hmm.
Hey, I mean, if your music can be as powerful as that, I mean, you're doing something right, right?
You hope so.
Well, Danny and Nick, thank you guys so much. I've kept you up much later than you probably wanted. Did you work today as well?
No, thank goodness.
We
Oh
got back
We're-
yesterday, so we were just
Just
depositing.
music work.
Yeah.
We were just doing the emails and stuff today.
Yeah.
So thankfully got to sleep in.
Good. Well, best of luck. Can't wait to hear the new music. Tour wise, can we share any tour dates for the rest of the year or into 2026?
Yeah, we
What do
definitely
we
have tour
got?
dates for the rest of the year. We're pretty much out almost every single weekend. And then November, we're doing a week out to Kansas, shows along the way. And then at the end of the year, we're heading up to the Midwest. Keep an eye out for tour dates up to the Midwest
Yeah, we've got
and
some
Wisconsin.
shows in Virginia and North Carolina coming
Yeah.
up as well. So yeah, check it out on our website, southforwintermusic.com. You can see all the tour dates on there, and back to Spotify, it will also tell you where we are.
It's true. It will.
Excellent. Well, again, best of luck. Thank you guys again for the second time to do the podcast.
Oh, thanks for
Again,
having
don't
me
forget
on.
to like, follow, hell yeah. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us, that helps the bands like South for Winter. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dog. You've been great. This is the Music Lab podcast.